Hey, what's up everybody? It's Senpai Grayson, and I'm back to you with another video. This time I want to do it a little bit different. This time I think I'm going to start out with the tip, and then we'll talk about recaps on the stream a little bit later. And I think I'm going to continue to do this as well, just so the tip's at the front. If people just want to hear about the tips that I'm giving out and the experience that I have, we'll start with that. And then if people don't want to hear the recap on my streaming week later, that's fine. That's okay. Now it'd be awesome if you guys did stick around for that, and let me know what you think. I'm always looking at the comments down below, so if you're there, I'll be there. Anyway, so to start off, the thing that I want to cover today in this video is bitrate, and just kind of some of the basic setup stuff within your streaming software. I'm specifically going to focus on Streamlabs OBS, but this should also carry over to the others, specifically OBS itself, Open Broadcast. This should carry over to all the other streaming platforms as well. OBS especially, because it's pretty much the same as Streamlabs OBS. I can barely tell the difference, other than I think Streamlabs OBS is way prettier and easier to navigate and have your stream going at the same time. You can see your chat and everything's all in one place, and I think that's awesome. So to start out, let's look at the basic Streamlabs setup. When you first pull it up, it's going to be completely blank. I'm not going to show you how to build your stream or anything like that, like the looks of it, but I do want to talk about what you should start off by doing, what you should start off looking at, and what your settings should look like, and what I think and why I select my settings. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Alright, so right now, you can see here, I have the blank canvas. There is no scenes, no sources. You can see my mic is being picked up right now, but that's because I'm recording. And actually, you know what? Now that I say that, I'm lying. It's my headset down here. It just picked up whatever source that it has. I'm actually recording this, and I stream from a secondary PC. It is nothing impressive. To give you an example, I have a really nice CPU in it, which I really don't need. I don't usually get it over like 50% use during streams. It has a 7700K Intel i7 processor in it, and it has actually a 660 Ti in it. A 660 Ti. It literally is doing nothing but providing video. You can get a nice graphics card, so do the opposite and offload everything to your graphics card, which I actually recommend. Things are a little bit easier, but today I'm going to talk about how I use the CPU, and really selecting a bitrate has nothing to do with how good your video card is. The 660 Ti can perform the same things as my CPU, but I choose to use the CPU because it's a really nice CPU. Eventually I will upgrade the PC, but it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is kind of overkill. It probably only needs 8. And again, it has a really cheap old graphics card that I got for $10. It's a 660 Ti, NVIDIA 660 Ti. So to start out, going into OBS, Streamlabs OBS, down here in the very bottom left-hand corner, you want to click this gear. Now, I've skipped all the settings where it tries to offer you some auto, setup features and things of that sort. And I don't recommend that you do that. It might try to pull some good information for you, but I know when I did my automatic setup, it picked the right server to stream to, but it gave me a bit rate of something really low, and I'm going to show you some videos of what it looks like to stream at a really low bit rate and how it's not acceptable at all. If you were a viewer of that stream, you're insane, because it does not look good, and it's like almost nauseating to look at. So to start out, we're gonna go straight to our video settings first. Okay, in video settings, Here you can see there's a base canvas resolution, and you pretty much want it to match the size of your screen. This is pretty much how large will the border in the background be, in which you can put your overlay and all those sort of things in there. The output scaled resolution is going to be what you push out to Twitch, to Mixer, to DLive, whatever streaming service you use. That's going to be what you push out. I recommend 720p typically to everyone who's starting, and I want to warn you right now, if you do 1080p, a lot of times when you first start streaming, you're not going to get what's called transcoding. What that means is people are not going to be able to change their stream resolution from 1080p down to 720p or any lower. So if you've got them stuck at 1080p and they don't have good enough internet for 1080p, they won't be watching you. It won't happen. They just won't be watching you. It'll be buffering the whole entire time. They're just going to leave. And I have a couple viewers when I'm at 720p who could scale their stuff down to 160p and they still can't watch it, or they're audio only. And that's simply because everything's going through your encoder, it's going through Twitch, and if Twitch is running slow, even though you have the processing power and the internet speeds to do what you need to get your stream going the right speed and everything's looking fine on your end, they just can't load. It's not your fault. There's nothing you could do about it. There's no sense of fighting about it. There are some people who they'll tell you they take about 4 or 5 days to download a game that's 40 gigs. Their internet is terrible. They're not going to be able to load your stream, and there's nothing you can do about that. It's quite unfortunate. So, moving on, FPS type, I always leave this at common values. You have 30 frames per second and 60 frames per second. Think about it. You are encoding and pushing all this data through. It's going to double. Like if you go from 30 frames per second, 60 frames per second, like so, it's going to double the amount of bits you need to push through. I'm not going to give you guys all that crazy, like, scientific, nerdy, what is a bit rate. We're not going to do all that. We're going to just talk about what the settings look like and what you should pick. Anyway, I stick to 30 personally. I would love to do 60 frames per second, but even myself, I've been streaming for 1.5 years and I don't get transcoding all the time. So it's not really an option. I would love to do 1080p as well, but 1080p can be a little bit rough, which you'll see here in a bit after all my testing. One last thing, downscale filtering. I always pick LAN. I don't know how the hell to say that, but I picked that one. It says 32 samples on it. It just makes your colors pop a little bit more. Audio, I've never had to mess with anything on this. Works just fine. Output mode. So you're gonna see in output mode a simple mode and an advanced mode. Now, I always switch this to advanced. Reason being is you don't get very many options here in output mode, simple output mode. If you go to advanced, you can see it opens up and there's a whole lot more happening, right? A lot that you really don't need, but I'm going to start with this top one here that says encoder, well, the second from the top. It's software X264. What that means is that you'll be encoding with your CPU rather than your graphics card. Your CPU already takes a good bit of load even if you use your graphics card, so you need to be careful about what you pick. If you have a really nice graphics card but not the greatest CPU, you may want to pick the other two options, Hardware NVEC and Hardware NVEC New. Hardware NVEC New just showed up. I don't know much about it. When I used it with my older graphics card, it still worked. It didn't really tell me too much about what it did, though. It looked exactly the same. It ran exactly the same. So there's probably some new technology behind it that has to involve some of the newer graphics cards that have built-in encoding with it. It just means it will run better. But for us, like I said, I'm running on my CPU. I'm gonna go ahead and select software x264. I leave everything default. Encoder streaming service settings checked. Rescale output unchecked. Rate control CBR, leave it. And then we have our bit rate. And the only things that I change is bit rate and CPU usage. Now CPU usage, the faster you go, the less the encoder, your CPU, cares about how it's going to put the image together. Pretty much the slower that you allow it to take, so if I go down, scroll down a bit here, if I go all the way to slow, it's probably going to max my CPU out to 100%. It's going to take its good old time, piecing everything together, making the screen look nice and perfect and crisp, but it's going to tax heavily on your CPU. It's just not going to be good. If you don't have a great CPU, you don't want to. I leave mine at very fast. I have switched it to ultra fast, and it makes a huge difference in the performance of your CPU and how much it's going to use. If you're not using the stream PC, the dual PC setup, I would say try going for super fast or ultra fast. It will help you be able to play games at the same time you stream or record or do whatever you want to. So I'm gonna go with very fast. Bitrate is what we're gonna talk mostly about. I have some videos with each of the bitrate settings set to certain points. Specifically 720p, starting at the base, 1500, 3000, 4500, 6000. So we're gonna go up. We're gonna slowly scale up. They're all at 30 frames per second, except for we do 1080p next, where I start at 1500, 3000, 4500, 6000, and then way up at 7500. And we're gonna find something out with 7500. There were some restrictions for me, and I might actually upgrade my internet after that, or just see if upgrading my internet will change that. See if it will fix the issue that I'm having with trying to go all the way up to 7500. I might want to do that. I might want more consistency. I want my internet to be more consistent. So I do see some frame drops every once in a while I'm streaming, and that could be the cause of it. So let's go ahead and start watching these videos. All right, so jumping forward here a bit, you can see that everything's fine as long as we're standing still, but the moment that we actually go to move, you're gonna notice something. You're gonna notice right here that everything gets extremely blurry. Can't really tell until we walk outside here, and everything is absolutely atrocious. It does not look good at all. Everything's mushy. There's no clear image of anything in the background, barely anything that's close to you. If you're moving, everything's extremely blurry, and this isn't something that you want during your stream. Nobody is going to want to watch something that looks this mushy. It's going to hurt their eyes, may even make people feel a little bit sick, and it's just not what you want in your stream. It's not high quality. It's not even okay quality. It's unacceptable. And if you can't manage to get to 1500 for your bitrate, you're gonna need to upgrade your internet, and it may not even be worth you streaming. You may be able to get away with something that is really steel, like Hearthstone, a card game. You know, if you play Magic the Gathering, Pokemon TCG, maybe Heroes of Might and Magic, where it's like a turn-based game. But trying to play a game that's fast-paced like Fortnite or Apex Legends is not going to work out for you. All right, so you can see that with 720p, 30 frames per second, and 3000 bit rate, everything's a lot nicer. You can see in the distance, you can see things are pretty clear. It's still blurry, and it's not exactly the best picture, but it's doable. It's something that you could stream with. It's something that your viewers can like and be okay with. Obviously, the clearer the better, but if you're trying to just, like, you know, get away with the best picture that you can, I recommend doing 3000, maybe even 2500. But again, as we move around and look around and stuff, if I go ahead and jump forward to the point where I'm running around and shooting, you can see that things are just a little bit blurry. Not going to be the best picture quality at all, but it's going to do the trick. Okay, so moving on, we're going to go ahead and do 720p at 4500 bits per second. Starting off, we're just standing still right now, but the picture looks extremely clear. And when we start to move around, you can see there's less blurriness. Things are really, really slick, and it's got a nice look to it. This may even be acceptable at 60 frames per second. At 60 frames per second looks glorious. I feel like frames almost make your image look better than the actual resolution and bitrate going through itself. Just because that smoothness feels really good. And that might just be me, but it's really hard to push that 60 frames per second because, again, it will take double the bit rate in order to make it run as smooth. You're pushing double the frames through. That means you need to double everything else at the same time. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. All right, and then we go ahead and push the envelope here when it comes to 720p, 6000 bit rate. Looks really nice. There's no blurriness when you move. You can see right here while we're sitting still, there's a crisp line going on this platform, and it just looks really nice. If you can hit this, awesome. Sweet. Really great. Pushing 6000 bits per second, though, can cause your viewers to buffer sometimes, so I'd watch out for that. If you get some complaints about it buffering all the time, you may want to go ahead and move your bit rate down a bit to 4500. But we'll go ahead and move on to our 1080p 1500 bits. As you can see, this is absolute trash. It is blurry. You can see all the pixels. You can barely see in the distance. You can't even see what's up close. It almost looks like you're watching a video through water. Maybe just there's some grease on the screen or something. I don't even know. It's just not good looking. It's not acceptable at all. Do not try to do 1080p if you can't even reach over 3000 bits per second. So let's look at that next. Let's go ahead and look at 3000 bits per second to see what that looks like. Go ahead and pull that up at 3000 bits per second at 1080p. If we go and look at this, it is still very, very blurry. The distance looks like there's like a heat wave. Everything's really fuzzy. And when you turn and look at things, it's just not the most gorgeous video that you've seen. It may be a little bit doable, but I would say if you're gonna go for 3000, do it at 720p. 720p is gonna be the one way that you want to go. Moving on, 1080p, 4500 bit rate. That's where you see things start to look really good. We still get a little bit of blurriness whenever we're turning and snapping to different targets and moving around. It's still not 100%, but it's doable. It's very, very doable. 4500 for your bit rate on 1080p, you could get away with that. And I'm actually thinking about changing mine to being 1080p rather than 720p. Just to have things look a little crispier. But I can still see like there's some like heat wave-ish looking particles, some pixels when you have things that are way in the background. It just looks a little bit wavy and not perfect. And since we have two people on our screen at the same time whenever we're streaming, it may not be the right option unless we can push it up to 6000 bits per second. So let's go ahead and look at 6000 bits per second and see exactly what we're looking at when it comes to that. 6000 bits per second, super crispy, extra crispy. You can see everything in the background. I haven't really stopped moving at all, but you can see that it just looks really good. Everything in the background looks crisp. We do have a little tiny bit of blurriness though, and the only way we're going to get rid of that is if we push all the way to like 8,000, maybe 7,500. And what I did is I actually tried to do that at some point in time. I actually have the video of it, so let's go ahead and pull that up. It's nice, but I ran into an issue. So if you look here at our 1080p 7,500 bits per second, it looks super crisp. It's like almost perfect. It's almost perfect. It's almost like you're playing the game. But I have some moments where things get a little bit blurry, and that's because my connection would start to fluctuate. When it's fluctuating, what that's telling you is that your network just isn't fast enough, or there's some sort of bottleneck within your hardware that is not letting you actually view all of that information or send all of that information, I should say. One way you could check on that is if you go into Streamlabs and you hover over this bottom left hand corner here, it'll show you all of your information, how much CPU you're using, what's your frames at, how many packets you've dropped or how many frames you've dropped, and what your kilobytes per second is. And you can actually pop this out by clicking on it. You can drag it around and you can click it off or do whatever. But you want to keep an eye on this when you're trying to push these resolutions and this amount of bit rate. If you can't get up to the bit rate that you selected and keep it there, if it's like fluttering at something lower, you can't do it. Your connection can't do it. Your hardware can't do it. Just stick to what you've got. So drop it down a level for 4,500, 6,000, whatever seems to be working for you and it's not fluctuating. I did one last one, even though I struggled with the 7,500. I went ahead and did 7,500 with 60 frames per second. We can go ahead and look at that. Take a quick little peek. You can see that I am not achieving the bit rate for it, but it's still extra just crisp. It's just smooth. It's buttery. It's just delicious. Why can't I just stream at this all the time? But the reason I'm getting the blurriness is because I never actually make it past 6,000. I'm just stuck like 6,000. Sometimes I'll jump up to 7 and it'll drop back down, and it's just because I'm simply struggling to get past that 6,000 marker. I wouldn't even stream at 6,000 bits per second because I can't achieve it all the time. Every once in a while my network connection slows down. Now I'm not doing very well. So what I end up doing is doing 4,250. Seems to be the sweet spot. I don't lose frames too often with it, and also I tend to stay connected very well, and everything doesn't fluctuate. I get a nice picture, and it's good to go. I also do only 720p because of that. If I can't get over 6,000 bits per second, and I'm trying to do 1080p, I'm just not going to do it. It's not clear enough. It doesn't look crispy enough, and I don't want the blurriness within my screen. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Again, I recommend probably starting at 720p and like 3,000 bits per second just to see how things run, understand your hardware, understand what the limits are, and using the settings such as the CPU usage. You have a very low range CPU, or you don't want to use a lot of your CPU, scale it all the way up to ultra fast. Ultra fast means that it's not going to tax on it too much, and you'll be able to push this data through the same way and still play your games. Again, I want to remind you, I am on a streaming rig. So I have a stream PC and my game PC. We also have another game PC hooked up, and the stream rig is only for streaming. It doesn't play games. It doesn't do anything else. so it's not taxing. So anyway, I hope that this helps you out just a little bit. I wanted to share all of this with you and see what you guys think and what experiences you've had with trying out different bit rates, and if you've had any successes, failures, if you have any extra information on it even. I'm willing to learn. I always want to learn, but this is kind of what I've experienced since I've been streaming. I've streamed at 2,500. I've streamed at 3,500. Again, I'm at 4,250 right now. That's like my sweet spot, and I'm only at 720p. I can do 1080p. It is super crispy, but I got a lot of complaints that people couldn't view my stream. So I didn't want to do it all the time. I wanted to kind of scale that down, scale that back, roll it back a little bit, just to be at a comfortable spot. But I'm also kind of the point where I'm like, hey, I want my stuff to look extra super pretty, especially if I decide to do highlights or something. And, you know, I need to stream at 1080p if I want to pull that video back down. Or I need to record at the same time I stream, and I just don't want to push my stream PC that way. So it's going to be a thing. We're going to play around with it with 1080p. I think I'm going to upgrade my internet and see if that makes any changes. I will give an update on my next video, letting you know if I do that or if I just stuck with what I had. So anyway, second part of everything, my recap. Last week went pretty good. The Blight season, the Blight, I don't know what it's called for Path of Exile. The new season, I'm just going to call it the new season for Path of Exile came out. Played a ton of it, been grinding it. It's been feeling good. Got a new build. It's awesome. So video games are super awesome. In terms of viewership, we had like 2 days where we had 10 people in there hanging out. Very talkative when we were playing Apex Legends. It was a super good time. Then other days there was actually like a DDoS attack on DLive. My DLive went down. Mixer, their streaming services got reset, so you couldn't have a stream key for like a day and a half ish. I would say a full day, a full 24 hours. You literally had to sit there and wait, and so I just didn't stream on that. And then Twitch also got DDoSed, and a lot of my viewers couldn't watch. So there was a point in time where we dropped down to like 4-5 people, and then also my stream disconnected and came back. So I don't know what was going on with that, and hopefully Twitch gets that type of stuff resolved, but I know like DDoS attacks pretty much happen anywhere to anybody, and it's really hard to block. If you have a port open, it's just gonna happen. Even Wikipedia got, who the hell DDoS Wikipedia, but they got DDoSed as well. So yeah, I think everything's been going pretty well. Again, obviously I still want to see more people there, so hopefully I see some of you there. Hopefully I see some new faces. I'm a little bit behind on things. I send out stickers for all of our subscribers, and it's September. So I have to send last month's out and then also prepare for this next month coming up. So yeah. Anyway, so if you want to see Senpai Grayson succeed, Senpai and Ark really, make sure you come hang out. The stream will be in the description below. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Share it. If you want to share these tips with other streamer friends, it'll help me out a bunch. And if you want to see any other things like this, any information like this, just go ahead, hit me up, throw a comment down below, let me know what you want to see. Peace out. I be flossing. I be flossing. Flossing, 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 flossing.
Yo, I just hit the nastiest floss. You can't lie. You seen that shit. Like, that was easily a 10 out of 20, 20 out of 10, 420, 69, 360 no scope.
1337. 67930.
Jenny's mom has got it going on. Somebody once told me the world is gonna roll me. Ogres are like onions. They already have layers. Get out of my swamp. Plus, Genius signed me. I'm just saying, man. Where's my interview?